Hey, welcome to week 2 of the Enhancing Your AI Skills course. And this week it's all about using AI for image enhancement and also video production. And it's a hands-on session, mainly hands-on, a little bit of me rabbiting on as per normal. So first thing we've got a reminder that the Google Classroom has all the resources, and there's also a storage system which is available through Google Classroom, and also the weekly update emails to send out to you. Also, before we get into this, a quick warning: things may go wrong. So this is one of those sessions where, for example, we have to use quite high-speed broadband, and situations can arise where things can go wrong within session. So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about are actually things you can practice, particularly at home, knowing that obviously that sort of limitation won't probably exist with your broadband, won't be as slowed down as, say, 20 people trying to do the same thing in one computer room, sharing one broadband connection. So these things can happen. So as I say, some activities they can get wrong. The network often can block activities because there's so many people at once, but you have been warned. So objective for today is that by the end of today, you'll be able to explain how you can use AI to do image enhancement and also some video creation, some fun bits we'll be doing today. Okay, be using some free tools, and I always try and err on the side of going for the free tools. Some of the free tools you use today may put, for example, their logo in or their name or what have you as a little bit of an advert. But apart from that, they're all completely free, and we'll be doing things like removing backgrounds, colorizing images, upscaling images, and also creating videos from scratch. So even creating animations and voice-generated videos with an actual artificial voice, stuff like this. So it's all good stuff today. Okay. Okay. So before we did move on, a quick reminder: if you are offered to sign in, or as many of the cases with the sites we're going to use today, they require you to sign in because basically they're not going to go to all the processing power it's required to create these animations and these videos, and even the images themselves can require a certain amount of power. Then without knowing who it's for. And also they want to, obviously try and have your details and try and sell you details and what have you. And some of these sites often have paid subscriptions you can go for. So a safe way, and also probably the easiest way while you're in college, if you're physically within college, if you're in the community, then you'd probably have to use your own login details. But within college, you can use your college details, which is provided, examples provided here. Normally it will come up, by the way. So there, it's come up with my staff details there. When you're on a college computer, it will probably automatically come up with your student details, which normally are your student number at students.wvr.ac.uk. It normally come up with there. And the key to this is to choose the login with Google option. And by logging in with Google, it will automatically link into the college infrastructure. Now, if you're using laptops in the community, unfortunately, you're going to have to do it, your own way. Either use your own Google or Apple or whichever email account you've got. And also, before we go any further, all the resources today are actually on a URL online, a web address online. All the actual folder structure, all the resources are there, and there's also a resource list of all the different websites we're going to be using. So I've created little, short, easy to remember addresses for these. So for example, I use tinyurl.com for all of these. So tinyurl.com is a site that reduces long internet addresses to a very short, and in these cases easily to remember, shortened versions of the URL. So tinyurl.com/week2-EAI, so enhanced AI. So that's for all the resources, all the actual files, all the websites. But as I say, there's also for week2.urls, there's also it's a PDF which has a link to all the different websites we go to, which is quite useful to try if you're doing it from home, and also if you're doing it within session itself. So we're going to demonstrate some simply creating some images. Now, to be fair, you're probably on the first course, on the previous course, maybe you may have done this already with AI. So we're going to have a quick look at that. I'm probably using a different site here. I'm going to use Reaver to create a series of different AI generated images, which is a good feature where it gives you a variation in different features, different images, should I say, for, one prompt. So we're going to go straight into an example. So typing in a prompt like a cat playing with a dog will create a very simple, image like that. Might create a series of images, 5 or 6 even. So it's quite useful, and you can choose directly which one you prefer. Obviously, you can then have a follow-up where you can ask it to do in changes, enhancements, and so on and so on. So here's the first idea. So a quick step-by-step guide. Or removing backgrounds. Another example of the sort of things you can do with AI. So I'm using remove.bg, which is a good website to remember. So remove backgrounds, remove.bg. Okay, and a little example of how you do this is it removes backgrounds automatically using AI. So it actually uses AI to figure out what is the background, which is quite difficult. If you think of a picture, it's difficult to know what is the subject and what is the actual background. And it does all sorts of stuff. You can add a different background, you can blur the background, you can use Magic Brush to cut things out the background. So it does all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And by the way, yes, you can even use an extension to Canva. So you can take your finished product and you can add text to it. You can add all sorts of elements. You can change it in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. And it's also worth noting that when you actually create your finished product, your finished image, uh, there's two ways of supporting images without backgrounds. Well, there's only really the best way I'd recommend is PNG. So in other words, saving your image as a PNG will actually keep, if you don't have a background at all, but you want to keep it so that you can add your own background later on, you can save it as a PNG and it will keep it as what we call a transparent background. You'll see an example in a minute. A transparent background is normally represented with like a chessboard pattern of squares. So you see in a second what that looks like. If you do, and it's a common mistake with beginners, if you do save your image at the end and you remove the background and you save it as a PNG, what you actually do is you squash the image back down to one layer, which actually makes the background whatever you see. So you end up making the background white again. So you may have to remove it if you want to add a different background. So there's an example. So you can see there's a picture there. There's this young lady. She's got flowers. It's figured out that the flowers and the person and obviously the arms and the hair and everything are all part of the original subject. It's figured that out, but it's figured out therefore that what's in the background here, which is like curtains and some sort of furniture, it isn't part of the subject, so it needs to be removed, and it's replaced it with this checkerboard pattern to represent transparency, to represent that's an area which can be replaced with something else. Now, it uses checkerboard for a very good reason. If it used just to say, for example, a white color, then you might think the background was actually white, when in reality it was clear and you could see through. So this will be the same as taking this person, cutting this person out extremely, accurately, and putting them or printing them on top of a clear plastic sheet. So you could actually see through what was underneath that clear plastic sheet. And obviously the parts which were transparent, you could see through, but the parts which were printed, you couldn't see through. So that's very much the same sort of thing we're talking about here. So enhancing and video creation. So we've looked at enhancing. So we've had a hands-on, doing it. So for your homework, I asked you if you would basically go away and have a go at use remove.bg. On all the slides, by the way, if you click on the actual link here, sometimes you need to use control and click. It will go to the website. So all the actual text with web addresses are active addresses, so you can go to them. So we're going to get you go to that when you go home, and basically just upload an image. I'll give you some example images you can use on the actual Google Classroom and on storage. So there's plenty of example images you can play with there, and experiment with adding some new backgrounds maybe, and maybe if you want to, experiment by using Canva and taking the actual background removed image and doing things with it, like adding text and making it move, enhancing in whichever way you like. I mean, once you get into Canva, you can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Colorizing photographs. So this is another area which you often have. Now, I'm sure all of you have very old photographs of sort of family members, aunties, grandparents, and so on. So, for example, this is a very good website, upscaler.ai. It removes and restores old photographs. So let me give you a very good example. Look at this. There's the original photograph. And one of the things it will do is it will crop the photograph if it needs it. Now, this photograph didn't have any excess, but some photographs often have like a little border around, or they have areas which are sort of like not needed, like maybe parts of the background which aren't really required. So if necessary, it'll crop the actual image. Another thing it will do, it will fix any damage. So you can see all this damage on the original photograph here. So when it was digitized, not only was the original photograph digitized, but any damage, of course, was part of that, scanning process. And it's fixed all of it. It's fixed all of it. It's amazing, isn't it? It will fix any sort of white balance, any colorizing, any sort of, making things brighter, darker, those sort of situations. So you'll find situations where photographs may have been taken under the artificial lights and the colors not quite right. So it'll deal with those situations. It will enhance and upscale, which basically means if it's a low quality photograph, it will actually enhance it and upscale it so it actually looks like a modern, a higher quality photograph. So it will work out which pixels belong to which actual modern, so it might double the number of pixels and work out each individual pixel and what that individual pixel should look like. And then, of course, the most important thing of all is it will colorize it and it will do anything else that's necessary. For example, it will make assumptions, it will fix areas which have no information in them. So if there's any areas, and it's not particularly any areas here, but you can imagine that bit of damage there. I mean, as a human, you can work out quite easily that that bottom part is going to be part of the jacket, but the very top bit there is going to be part of the background. And you can see they've done that. They've done any sort of fixing, any sort of enhancing, any sort of colorizing. It's worked out skin tones. Now, it works out skin tones by the original. So if you've got a picture of somebody who's got a darker skin tone, it will work out the equivalent color version of that darker skin tone. It will also work out and decide, and it pretty well does it all by itself. Things, for example, such as the tie, it will work out what does that tie look like now. What it's done, it's put a sort of bluish cast over the tie, so it's made it a little bit more colourful without going too crazy. It's also worked out, for example, what the raincoat would look like. In fact, I think it's created an alternative, generated an alternative raincoat or completely from scratch. That looks more sort of a woolen sort of raincoat. That looks a bit more cottony, but anyway, it's an extremely good job, as you can see. Here's a high quality version. And there's another exertion which is even more severe. And you can see, for example, I say about croppings, there's areas which are not needed in the original picture. Have you noticed also it's rotated the image fractionally just to make sure it lines up neat within a modern frame? And it's done a lot of repairs to all the various creases and areas of damage within the photograph. And you can ask it to repeat the process over and over, and you'll get variations. Now, I've done this particular variation with Gemini, which is Google's AI. And Gemini's, I find, very good at doing this. Unfortunately, within college, Gemini's blocked for some unknown reason. We can't use Gemini. We can use ChatGPT and all the others, as you know, but we can't use Gemini. So you see the Gemini symbol on these, for example. And there you go. It's created some, and these are genuine, by the way. I must stress these are absolutely genuine AI generated images. These are not ones which I've got the original. I've sort of made it look old and damaged. Absolutely, these are genuine. That's the original, and that's what Gemini's made of it. A good point here is notice this damage here. There's obviously looks like some sort of heat or some sort of physical damage to the image there, and likewise there's no information there what is going on, neither is there any information at the bottom. And on the two versions it's interpreted that completely different. On this version it's interpreted as maybe the person's wearing some sort of t-shirt and it's just to fill that information with t-shirts. On this version it's so, well, maybe that possibly is like a V-neck. Old photographs and also enhancing photographs in many ways. And not to forget from the previous course or other courses, creating images from an AI prompt. You can also generate videos from a still image. So an example of that might be, for example, oops, that's gone. So animating the still image. So here we have a simple image. Interesting points to note that the actual character here is not human. So will the AI recognize that as the case and not animate that? It'd be a bit freaky if Elvis there in the corner starts to start singing away. And also notice there's a mirror. So when the animation is created of this person here, the actual mirror needs to reflect those animation changes. Okay. A few little bits, the handbag, for example. So if this person's hand moves, the handbag needs to move with it. So all these little things which you don't really think about, but the AI will need to ensure are correctly done, will actually, be done. Well, let's have a look. Let's see what it's like. So yeah, the handbag's working. There's a handbag there moving. The change in the mirror, yeah, just about to see there was some changes, but probably not perfect. And the big one, Elvis has not been animated, so nothing too freaky about it. Okay. So that's an example of animating simply from a still image. Of course, you can create total video clips completely, completely unique and genuine just from a prompt, you know? So you can actually make, an actual an avatar or an imaginary sort of character talk, and you can actually tell it what to say.
Hello, I am Young Paul. Welcome to the world of AI-generated video. Hope you are enjoying your course at WVR.
So there you go. That's great. That's basically me selecting, using a particular application, me selecting the person's face, body, what have you, choosing their voice. So you can choose the different voice to the actual face. The faces, I think, come with preset voices, but that's just for convenience. And then in the prompt, you actually tell it what to say. And you notice I actually mention the college name and what have you, because I wanted you to realize it was completely genuine. This has got a little watermark in. You find this with a few of these sites. And if you don't pay for the content, they give you it for free, but with a watermark. But you can see there that is completely and utterly, an imagine, not imaginary, but it's completely utterly AI generated. Okay, very powerful.
Hello, I am Young Paul. Welcome to the world of AI-generated video. Hope you are enjoying your course at WVR.
Here you go.
Hello,
We'll move on.
I am Young Paul.
And here's another example. This one is completely generated just from the prompt. I think possibly I may have provided a starting photograph, as you can see there. Other than that, I can't really remember what else, but basically the prompt asked it to create a short video with certain words and described, adults going in and out of the reception and things like that. So that's what video it created completely from prompt. By the way, it also added the music. Again, not a bad job. There's a few errors, there's a few mistakes in the video, some glitches and what have you. But, overall, considering that's completely just from a short prompt, that wasn't a detailed prompt at all. That was quite a short prompt. It's done a pretty good job, I think. So I think you should be impressed with that indeed. So, some examples.
Where do you go next?
To Grandma's house. She bakes cookies and promised to spoil me.
Okay, so obviously, completely AI generated, but you can see how people are having fun with this sort of technology. Another example with dogs.
She says I have separation anxiety. Dude, I haven't seen her go more than 30 seconds without her phone.
Okay. So anyway, the rest of the session we spent just going through various, different websites. So you'll notice at the very bottom of the screen, there's a link again. I remind you at the beginning, from the beginning, the tinyurl.com/week 2 dash URLs, that will take you to a PDF which has the links to all these different websites. So if that's probably the easiest way of you downloading or getting to these individual websites, I'm just going to run through the different sites very quickly. And by the way, these sites may change. On a later course, I may have found some of these sites don't work anymore or may no longer be free. And I've changed to other sites I may have found which are better. So, the variations will happen. But you'll always get the latest version of the URLs, the links to the different websites using that link there. So it's worth knowing. So let's start with some video generation sites. So there's two there. Both of them do an excellent job. Both of them give you free options, as well as, of course, allowing to pay a subscription if you wish, but I wouldn't recommend it to just for the first one you try. If you want to go and get a subscription, there's some very good sites out there and some variations in price, so it's worth doing a bit of shopping around. More here on sort of general tools. These are all about sort of, AI enhancing images or creating videos and such like. So it's worth, again, having a play with them all. So as I say, the rest of the session we're just having a play. I was maybe getting you to play one or the other for about 5 or 10 minutes. Some photo restoring sites. Some various sites that sort of explain what they do. So there's a video enhancer on this one, a video colorizing, but these may all vary on your particular course. And more here. These are photo restoring sites. There's the one we used earlier, remove BG. So, and some bonus sites. So there's a good link to a huge database of different AI sites. So if you want to do something which is different to what we discussed today or previous weeks, and you want to try and find there's an AI available for us, that's a brilliant starting point. You can just search for a keyword and it will, for example, you want to create AI to create your account, or you want the AI to create your document, or AI to create or generate or what have you help with, then do a keyword search in there. Would be a wonderful place. And also, because unfortunately we can't use in college Gemini, I've put the link on there, explain that it is blocked within the college, but within the community should be fine to use. Some of the resources I've even used earlier were created. For example, some of the videos, some of the images were fixed with Gemini. And again, you can upload an image to Gemini and you can tell it to do things like create an animation, create enhance it, fix it, remove damage, stuff like that. It's a wonderful little place. It's an all-rounder, which has proven one of my favorites, to be honest. It's a shame we can't use in college. And some of the bonus ones, these will vary depending on different courses. Okay, so quick discussion. One of the things we need to think about is the ethics of these tools. So it's really important that you obviously don't go and, although you can, just because you can doesn't mean you should create, for example, deep fakes or create images which can be misleading or anyway, So if you've got an image of somebody's face, you can create any setting, any sort of scenario image with that face. So you can use the prompt and say, create a photograph of this person doing X, Y, and Z, and that is a hugely powerful thing to do. And unfortunately, there are some people who abuse and, completely misuse that technology. So it's something to think about. It's obviously something you wouldn't want anyone to do to yourself. So, consider it that way. Don't do it to others, do to yourself. So it's just something to think about. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you can't have fun with it. So you can create, maybe a deep fake video or some sort of animation or some sort of, maybe just fix photographs you've got absolutely for personal use. No harm in that whatsoever. It's when people start distributing it via social media and things can be misconstrued and what have you when the problems are really occurring. Always obtain consent if you're going to obviously share that information or that image or what have you. Always make sure you have consent. Make sure the person in the video or what have you is aware of it. I'm not talking about the videos you restored, such as 100-year-old videos your grandparents. It might be difficult to get consent from them, but I'm talking about current videos and anything you create where a living human being could be offended in any way, even if they're videos which go out of your control and then misused in some way, you have to be very careful. Particularly important if you know anybody, say a celebrity, any photographs, and I'm sure you've probably, people, unfortunately, who have family who are celebrities, they have to give sort of discussion and lecture to their family members about sharing photographs of themselves, because obviously, I'm sure politicians are the same, because these things can be used and abused and what have you, and it's an unfortunate world we live in when these things are taken in that way and manipulated and used in such bad ways. Respect copyright, of course. So any branding, don't sort of you don't want to be upsetting anybody who's got money to sue you. Let me put it that way. But I'm sure it wouldn't. Very rarely do these things happen. But there are legal implications to using creating artificially generated images and videos and what have you. So we've seen how easy it is to generate videos with AI and also enhance and even generate, images with AI. And sometimes it's a process. Sometimes you might create an image with AI and then from that you create some sort of animation type video. So it's very easy to do indeed. So next week, we're going to be looking at some sorts of suggestions for the final week. And also we're going to be looking at other types of AI, ways of using AI. Okay. A little tip is bring in a set of headphones because you never know when you're going to need them. It's a good thing to have with you. Please don't buy yourself a very expensive pair of headphones just for this, but just anything which you can plug in. Even the type of headphones you get for free with mobile phones, the type with a single earpiece, you plug in with a little jack plug.